Hello, 5th grade. Mrs. Pecora here, back with reading our Roald Dahl book, The Witches. We left off, the witches were having their convention. They turned the little boy into a mouse, and then the Grand Witch was giving the older witches some of the potion. So let's continue reading and see what happens in The Witches. Oh, boys and girls, sorry this is so shaky. Mrs. Pecora is trying to line it up here. Okay, here we go. I think this is good. Thank you, O most generous and thoughtful one, chorused the ancient witches. No, I'm sorry, boys and girls. Not one drop will be wasted. Each of us will promise to squish and squallop and squiggle 1,000 children. Our meeting is over, announced the Grand High Witch. Here is the timetable for the remainder of your stay in this hotel. Right now, we must go out onto the Sunshine Terrace and have tea with that ridiculous manager. Next, at 6 o'clock tonight, those witches who are too old to climb trees or grunt those eggs will report to my room to receive 2 bottles each of Mouse Maker. My room number is 454. Do not forget it. Then, at 8 o'clock, all of you will assemble in the dining room for supper. We are the lovely ladies of the RSPCC, and they are setting up 2 long tables especially for us. But do not forget to put the cotton plugs up your noses. That dining room will be full of filthy little children, and without the nose plugs, the stink will be unbearable. Apart from that, remember to behave normally at all times. Is everything clear? Any questions? I have one question, Your Grandness, said a voice in the audience. What happens if one of the chocolates we are giving away in our shops gets eaten by a grown-up? That is too bad for the grown-up, said the Grand Witch. The meeting is over, she shouted. Out you go. The witches stood up and began gathering their things together. I was watching them through the crack and hoping to heaven they would hurry up and leave so that I might be safe at last. Wait! Shrieked one of the witches in the back row. Hold everything! Her shrieking voice echoed through the ballroom like a trumpet. All the witches suddenly stopped and turned to look towards the speaker. She was one of the taller witches, and I could see her standing there with her head tilted back and her nose in the air, and she was sucking in great long breaths of air through those curvy pink seashelly nostrils of hers. Wait! She shouted again. What is it? The others cried out. Dogs' droppings! She yelled out. Just then I got a whiff of dogs' droppings. Surely not, the others shouted. There couldn't be. Yes, yes, shouted the first witch. There it is again. It's not strong, but it's there. I mean, it's there. It's definitely somewhere not too far away. What's going on down there? Shouted the Grand Witch, glaring down from the podium. Mildred just got a whiff of dog droppings, Your Grandness, someone called back to her. What rubbish is this? Shouted the Grand High Witch. She has dog droppings on the brain. There are no children in this room. Hang on, cried the witch called Mildred. Hang on, everyone, don't move. I'm getting it again. Her huge, curvy nose holes were waving in and out like a pair of fishtails. It's getting stronger. It's hitting me harder now. Can't the rest of you smell it? All the noses of the witches in the room went up in the air, and all the nostrils began to suck and sniff. She's right, cried another voice. She's absolutely right. Dog's dropping it is, strong and foul. In a matter of seconds, the entire assembly of witches had taken up the dreaded cry of dogs' droppings. Dogs' droppings, they shouted. The room is full of it. Pooh! Pooh! Why did we not smell it before? It stinks like a sewer. Some little swine must be hiding not very far away from here. Find it! Screamed the Grand High Witch. Track it down! Root it out! Follow your noses till you get it! The hairs on my head were standing up like the bristles of a nail brush, and a cold sweat was breaking out all over me. Root it out, this small lump of dung! Screeched the Grand High Witch. Don't let it escape! If it is in here, it deserves the most secret things. It must be exterminated immediately. Metamorphosis. I remember thinking to myself, There is no escape for me now. Even if I make a run for it and manage to dodge the lot of them, I won't get out because the doors are chained and locked. I'm finished. I'm done for. Oh, Grandmama, what are they going to do to me? I looked round, and I saw a hideous, painted, and powdered witch's face staring down at me. And the face opened, and its mouth and yelled triumphantly, "It's here! It's behind the screen! Come and get it!" The witch reached out a gloved hand and grabbed me by the hair, but I twisted free and jumped away. I ran. Oh, how I ran. The sheer terror of it all put wings on my feet. I flew around the outside of the great ballroom, and not one of them had a chance of catching me. As I came level with the doors, I paused and tried to open them, but the big chain was on them, and they didn't even rattle. The witches were not bothering to chase me. They simply stood there in small groups, watching me, and knowing for certain there was no way I could escape. Several of them were holding their noses with their gloved fingers, and there were cries of, "Pooh, what a stink! We can't stand that much longer!" "Catch it then, you idiots!" screamed the Grand High Witch up on the platform. "Spread out in a line across the room and close in and grab it. Corner this filthy little gumbo and seize it and bring it here to me." The witches spread out as they were told. They advanced towards me, some from one end, some from the other, and some came down the middle between the rows of empty chairs. They were bound to get me now. They had me cornered. From sheer and absolute terror, I began to scream. "Help!" I screamed, turning my head towards the doors in hopes that somebody outside might hear me. "Help, help, help!" "Get it!" shouted the Grand High Witch. "Grab hold of it! Stop it yelling!" They rushed at me then. About 5 of them grabbed me by the arms and legs and lifted me clear off the ground. I went on screaming, but one of them clamped a gloved hand over my mouth, and that stopped me. "Bring it here!" shouted the Grand High Witch. "Bring the little spine worm up to me!" I was carried onto the platform with my arms and legs held tightly by many hands, and I lay there suspended in the air facing the ceiling. I saw the Grand High Witch standing over me, grinning at me in the most horrible way. She held up the small blue bottle of mouse maker, and she said, "Now for a little medicine. Hold his nose to make him open his mouth." Strong fingers pinched my nose. I kept my mouth closed tight and held my breath, but I couldn't do it for long. My chest was burning. I opened my mouth to get one big, quick breath of air, and as I did, the Grand High Witch poured the entire contents of the little bottle down my throat. Oh, the pain and fire! It felt as though a kettle full of boiling water had been poured into my mouth. My throat was going up in flames. Then very quickly the frightful burning, searing, scorching feeling started spreading down into my chest and into my tummy and on into my arms and legs and all over my body. I screamed and screamed, but once again the gloved hand was clamped over my lips. The next thing I felt was my skin beginning to tighten. How else can I describe it? It was quite literally a tightening and a shrinking of the skin all over my body, from the top of my head to the tips of my fingers to the end of my toes. I felt as though I was a balloon and someone was twisting the top of the balloon and twisting, and the balloon was getting smaller and smaller, and the skin was getting tighter and tighter, and soon it was going to burst. Then the squeezing began. This time, I was inside a suit of iron, and somebody was turning a screw, and with each turn of the screw, the iron suit became smaller and smaller, so that I was squeezed like an orange into a pulpy mess with the juice running out of my sides. And after that, there came a fierce prickling sensation all over my skin, or what was left of my skin, as though tiny needles were forcing their way out through the surface of the skin from the inside, and this, I realize now, was the growing of the mouse fur. Far away in the distance, I heard the voice of the Grand High Witch yelling, 500 doses! This stinking little carbuncle has 500 doses, and the alarm clock has been smashed. Now we are having instantaneous action. I heard clapping and cheering, and I remember thinking, I am not myself any longer. I have gone clear out of my own skin. I noticed that the floor was only an inch from my nose. I also noticed a pair of little furry front paws resting on the floor. I was able to move those paws. They were mine! At that moment, I realized I was not a little boy any longer. I was a mouse. "Now for the mouse trap!" I heard the Grand High Witch yelling. "I've got it right here, and there's a piece of cheese." But I wasn't going to wait for that. I was off across the platform like a streak of lightning. I was astonished at my own speed. I leapt over witches' feet, right and left, and in no time at all, I was down the steps and on the floor of the ballroom itself, and skittering off amongst the rows of chairs. What I especially liked was the fact that I made no sound at all as I ran. I was swift and silent mover, and quite amazingly, the pain had all gone now. I was feeling quite remarkably well. It's not a bad thing after all, I thought to myself, to be tiny as well as speedy when there is a bunch of dangerous females after your blood. I selected the back leg of a chair and squeezed up against it and kept very still. In the distance, the Grand High Witch was shouting, "Leave the little stinkpot alone! It is not worth bothering about. It is only a mouse now. Somebody else will soon catch it. Let us get out of here. The meeting is over. Unlock the doors and shove off to the Sunshine Terrace to have tea with the idiotic manager." All right, boys and girls, we're going to stop there. So let's see what happens next time in Roald Dahl, The Witches. Bye-bye.